Dr. Becerra was previously the Provost and Chief Academic Officer at St. Thomas University. Prior to that, she was a tenured professor of Management Information Systems, the Entrepreneurship-Centered Director, Vice Provost, and Vice President at Florida International University. She immigrated to the United States from Cuba as an infant, earned a bachelor's and master's in electrical engineering from the University of Miami, and became the first woman to earn a PhD in electrical engineering from Florida International University. Ladies and gentlemen, President Sarah.
Welcome to Marymount. Welcome to your home. I'm delighted to greet the Council of 100. I know this is your regular home, and I'm delighted to welcome you again and many more times to come. Can you guys hear me okay back there? Yes. Good. I am, as you all know, I started as Marymount's 7th president just July 1st, so about 2 months ago. And I'm delighted to share with you that I do not bring hurricanes. I did leave Miami because I was escaping them, so I was worried when this one seems to be following me, but I've been able to prove to my classmates that in spite of my name, Irma, I do not bring hurricanes. And also, my middle name is Maria. I am, as many of you know, Marymount is a phenomenal institution. Today, the U.S. News and World Report ranked us #1 in terms of our global diversity. And we're very proud. And we're #2 in our ethnical diversity, and we're very proud of that. And we're in the top tier for best value among all the universities in our region, as well as academic quality, and we're super proud of that. So welcome to our great university. Go Saints! Go Saints! Many of you know that we have many programs of distinction, among them our physical therapy program, which goes all the way to the doctorate, nursing all the way to the doctorate, cybersecurity all the way to the doctorate, and many others. As you know, many of you have the opportunity to hire our students in internships in our criminal justice program. And if any of you are interested in hiring our interns, please give me your card at the conclusion of this event, because we are proud that all our students graduate with internships, and therefore they're ready to hit the job market running, which is what all the parents dream of, having their kids off the table. Yeah. So without further ado, I really want to bring you back to Mon and the rest of the speakers. And I want to also recognize the great work of the Religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary that founded this great school in just a few years ago. We're a very young university. We were founded in 1950. And many of you I know have stories about Sister Magella. I was proud to have read her memoirs. And also we're going to start an internship fund in her name because that's what she really cared about, of our students having jobs upon graduation. So without further ado, back to the program. Thank you for being here tonight, and welcome back.
Thank you, Dr. Becerra. Please come back anytime you like. Our topic tonight is, are our children safe in school? Hopefully none of you have been on the scene of a shooting, but from the news, we all have a sense of how traumatic it must be. For people not physically hurt, it's obvious there will be emotional scars that need healing, as will the affected community. It happens far too often. There were 2 incidents in Memphis and Las Vegas this week. It happens so often, school shootings, often without mass casualties, often hardly make the news. When I researched this on Wikipedia, I came across a page that listed hundreds and hundreds of shootings. All the names you expect to be there: Columbine, Virginia Tech, Sandy Hook Elementary, Marbury Stoneman Douglas. But I was surprised how long the list is. How long, you ask? If you were to print it out, you would need 132 sheets of paper. Tonight's speakers are working to keep that list no longer. Our first speaker would be Delegate Paul Kriesek. He He's a member of the Virginia House of Delegates and has been since 2016, representing the 44th District of Virginia. This is mostly southern Alexandria, areas like Bellhaven, Highland Park, Fort Hunt, Mount Vernon, and near Fort Belmont. More importantly, he is a member of the Virginia House of Delegates Select Committee on School Safety, and he grew up in Northern Virginia, and is a colleague of Committee of 100 member Delegate Patrick Cope. Ladies and gentlemen, Delegate Friese.
Thank you very much for having me. I've always wanted to be here in Arlington, and actually I've thought, I'd sometimes dream of what it would be like to represent Arlington. You really have a great district here. These are the best folks. I'll tell my constituents member. No, we have, in the 44th district, I'm very blessed. I have a great constituency, and they're very active. And in fact, since I was selected by the Speaker to be one of the 22 members of the House Select Committee on School Safety, I've had a bunch of my constituents and folks from all of, members from Northern Virginia, including NAACP, and some school board members of Fairfax County, and your Senator Adam Evan and Delegate Mark Sickles have been attending a little roundtable of our kind of concerned citizens and experts, students as well. And it's great to see you guys out here tonight. That's really important. You've got to hear the students. We need their voices. In fact, I think you guys need to think about running for elected office, but not against Patrick. But going to these and being involved and being active is really important, and it's making a difference. And if you look down there in the General Assembly, we are finally, I think the message is getting across that this, and the Republican Speaker put this together, and he recognizes that we need to have a bipartisan effort on this, on school safety. Unfortunately, what I'm not going to talk about is guns. I'm not going to talk about preventing gun violence, specifically with strong laws that we've been trying to do. I know that Doug Pope has worked on and co-sponsored, co-patriot many bills for prevention of gun violence, and things like banning bump stocks and all kinds of things like assault-type weapons, getting rid of them, silencers. I mean, you would be surprised at the crazy bills that we vote against down there in the General Assembly. So we're really on the defense right now regarding that, and soon we're at 49 out of 100. So we can get a couple more delegates on the Democratic side. We can go on the offense. So I'm looking forward to that. I know that Delegate Hope is looking forward to that as well. And so that's the hope. But in the meantime, we do have this bipartisan effort, at least on a number of important issues under school safety. So I'm going to use this PowerPoint here. Okay, so the first thing is a little bit of an overview of the committee. So there's 22 members, and there's 12 Republicans and 10 Democrats. I think we have about 4 from Northern Virginia, and I'm probably one of the closest ones to Arlington. There is nobody from Arlington. I'm sure that. As I said, Speaker Cox prohibited any discussion of guns, and the reason for that is he wants to get something accomplished. And it's true, if we were to talk about, if we were to get into the gun issues in general, we would not get anything accomplished. And so he's probably wise in that sense. But we're focusing on strengthening emergency preparedness, school security infrastructure, implementing security best practices, additional security personnel, and I think most importantly, providing additional behavioral health resources for students. So those are the basic, that's what we're focused on, and we've heard from lots of people. We've had about, I think we've had 5 meetings, 5 committee meetings, and we also had a number of subcommittee meetings. So there's 3 subcommittees, and I'm on the 3rd one there, the prevention and response protocol. And most of I think thankfully, most of what we've done on the prevention and response protocol is talk about prevention. Because really that's where your tax dollars are best utilized on prevention. And so our main focus is on security training and prevention. This is my first PowerPoint. There's a lot of this new fun technology here. So the Virginia schools are safe. First of all, I want to say one thing about Virginia is we have some of the safest schools. Now, my mom's from England, and they say touch wood. Right? So it's, we hopefully, or not would we say in the United States, right? But we do have very safe schools, but nothing can be perfectly safe. I mean, we don't want to make schools look like prisons and with big electric fences and landmines around them and things like that. I mean, I mean, they could be maybe safer, but you have to balance this with reality and, of course, cost and what we're willing to pay for. But we did back when we had that awful shooting that was mentioned earlier at Virginia Tech. I think that was in what was that? That was many years ago now, but that's when we went to this threat assessment, mandating threat assessment in the General Assembly. And so K through 12 based, and that was based on Secret Service and FBI recommendations. And that could probably be, we could probably work on that, making it a little bit better as well. But we've also done a lot of consistent trainings for school shootings. But the problem we have in Virginia is that we don't have, it's not consistent across the whole Commonwealth. So I'm sure Arlington, we're going to hear from our Arlington folks pretty soon, the police captain. In Arlington, I would bet you that we have some of the safer schools and the better protocols in place. But some parts of Virginia just don't have that and don't have the resources. So we're trying to take some of the good practices, best practices, frankly, from North Virginia and export them around the Commonwealth. And so this process of having this school safety select committee allows us to do that and gets us, we learn things about what they're doing around, and some of the things that's going on in rural Virginia is quite good too. So we have there's some takeaways from there that we can use up here in North Virginia as well. And so that's why we do these committees. But the statewide uniformity is important. A big thing we need to do, and we have it through the Department of Energy, right? I mean, Department of Education website now. You'll see this a sample memorandum of understanding that you can use between the local school board and local law enforcement. And I'm sure Arlington probably is utilizing that. I would imagine. I know in Fairfax County we have one, and they just updated it, and they've made some really good language that works really well. The NAACP was involved, but the school board and all of the local police, and that memorandum of understanding is not mandated. So maybe that would be something that we could require that the whole Commonwealth would be using. And then the other big thing is SROs. There's the SROs. Does anybody know what an SRO is? So we have a couple people. School resource officer. Back when I was even a kid, we had Officer Friendly, I think. Remember Officer Friendly? And I think that was mostly elementary school. We didn't have police in the schools. But now, we have big high schools, and you've got Wakefield High School here in Arlington, and I have West Potomac and Mount Vernon High School. And so these are police officers, and they're in the school, and they're helping to prevent school violence. And so you need to have that's why you need a good memorandum of understanding, so that that everybody understands what their role is. They're not there just to arrest the kids, they're there to protect the kids. And so there are a lot of school jurisdictions that don't have the wherewithal, don't have the money, and to hire their own SROs. And so there's a number of applications, I think about $1.3 million in applications that were unfunded. And so one of the things we're trying to do is to fund, double the funding. Currently it's 1.3, and it's been that way since 1999, so we want to make it 2.6 going forward. And that would take care of all of the unfunded SROs around the country. Granted, there might be other jurisdictions that will see that the funding is increased and maybe they'll apply, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get to it. So of Virginia's 133 school districts, 127 already employ SROs. So that's 57% of high schools currently employ an SRO. Mostly in elementary schools, it's very, very low. And I'm not too sanguine about having SROs in the elementary school. I don't think that's necessary. But there are some schools that do have it. So anyway, the other thing we didn't talk about, and that is, unfortunately, I think it's important that it gets talked about, but we did have some testimony that was entered into the record, and that is on options-based responses. Does anybody know what option-based responses mean? So option-based responses, right now, if there's a shooter, an active shooter in the school, and this is probably only the captain probably knows this terminology, and I'm just learning it myself. But if there's an active shooter in the school, you can, there are a lot of school jurisdictions do the hide in place. You've probably heard about hide in place. I think a lot of you guys used to do that when we had the nuclear drills right from the nuclear bomb. and you'd hide underneath your desk like that was going to help you from radiation and everything else. But it's kind of the same thing right now. We have hide in place in Fairfax County, it's hide in place. In Alexandria City, it isn't hide in place. They use a different protocol. They use this Alice protocol. It's a more of a run, hide, fight, or the rest of it. I can't remember what Alice stands for, but it's more robust. And in some cases, hiding in places is the right thing to do. In Columbine, remember in Columbine, which was one of the earlier kind of big mass shootings, where the two boys went through, and at the end they were in the library. And there was a door that went right outside on the edge of the library, and the kids were running out the door, and the librarian had been trained to hide. They told, if you have any kind of problems, whatever it is, fire we always know, get outside. But anything else, you hide in place. And so she physically stopped these kids from running outside, and they went back, and she said, get under the desk. Well, the shooters were in the library, and they were shooting on the kids. So a lot of the kids died in the library, and that, I mean, I don't know, how many could have been saved if they had a different protocol. So that is something, that's part of the response to an active shooter, and sometimes it's not always the best idea to hide in place. Likewise, it's also when you're doing school hardening, you don't want to have huge fences around it outside of the school, because then if you're running it, and then it could be like a killing field out there, shooting kids as they're running away, and they can't get past the fence. So there are some really good best practices. The FBI, the Secret Service, a lot of the mechanic police, they know what to do, and we just need to make sure that we have a program that works for the whole Commonwealth. Maybe it is not a one-size-fits-all. Maybe each jurisdiction should be able to do something. So the main thing is mental health. The mental health issue is the biggest problem. Right? Everybody. So we had these hearings, and it became like a mantra. Every group that came and testified said, children are suffering from anxiety and mental illness at higher rates than others. And I don't know why that is. I mean, I think maybe it's the president. I know I'm suffering from mental health from his, and my parents live with me, and they just won't turn MSNBC off. And every night, I mean, I hear about the president and all, but there is a concern, and to be really serious, anxiety, a lot of our kids are really worried about college, or worried about getting along with other kids, and bullying, there's other kinds of issues, and they do suffer from mental health problems. 1 in 5 children are diagnosed with mental illness by age 18, and the current school counselors are just overwhelmed. They have a lot of non-counseling work that they're doing, and there's a lot of compliance paperwork, and so that's a big problem. And also money. Money is going to be really where the biggest issue that we have, and that's going to be where the rubber hits the road, right? And I think one of the best things about this whole committee that this whole exercise that we've been on for this committee is that the Republicans are recognizing that they're going to have to spend money. That goes usually kind of against the grain for them. So right now we're talking about $580 million just for support staff, but that's just not enough. We have, look at this last bullet, I think this is really telling. We have 57,000 more students in schools across the Commonwealth than we did in 2008. We have 2,000 fewer support staff. So the solution, yesterday we were down in Richmond for we had the penultimate committee hearing. We're going to meet again in November. So yesterday we came up, we had the 3 subcommittees all testified, and we have about 60 plus. And some of these are duplicates of each committee, had some of them with the same kind of recommendation. But there's around 60 recommendations. I'd say about 40 of them are legitimately possible if you had all the money in the world. Without all the money in the world, we're probably talking about 20 or 30, but I think we're going to come out of here with some good recommendations that will help. And one of them is mandating that counselors spend the majority of their time on counseling activities. I'm getting the folks soon, so let me just come back really quick. So you got ratios are a big important thing. There's other things like you got the issue with school shootings is that they happen very quickly. You've only got 5 minutes or so. 70% of them are taking place in that under 5 minutes. So it doesn't matter how many SROs you have, you're not going to necessarily be able to do anything, because the SRO might not be in the right building. If there's 3 buildings, like at my school, West Comcast School, for example. Utah has this app, so there's an interesting app that kids might be interested in that, where you can discuss things like bullying and kids that are problematic, and they can text, they can call, and they get a psychologist on the phone. So you can imagine a 24-hour, 24/7 psychologist, and that wouldn't be just one. You'd have to have a number of them. It would be it costs money. But anyway, Utah is rolling that thing out, and that I think is going to be one of the things we probably come up with legislatively. So key takeaways, we're going to have this report coming out through December 15th. We've got, like I said, about 60 potential recommendations. There's some good areas of bipartisan agreement. There's some that are not. I mean, let me just say, they're not all great ideas, and I want you guys to look. I'll give you the website in a second. There's one idea, Patrick, we don't want to support, is to provide SROs for private schools. We don't want our tax money providing SROs for private schools. I don't think that's right. So then there's the Utah tip line we talked about, spending the ratio of school counselors. And right now in the code, it's mandated you have 500 to 1, and we were talking about maybe recommending 1 to 250. So that costs money too. So another big thing is changing the date of the primary election, so you don't have the kids in school while you have the primary. And I said, well, if you're going to do that, then let's make the Tuesday in November a holiday, right? Make that a holiday. So they added that to the list. I don't know how far that would get, but it's on the list. So here's the last thing. I just wanted to say there's some other activities going on that you should be aware of. I'm going to go to see the SBI. That is the Save Virginia Initiative, and that's the Democratic caucus has put that together. There's going to be you guys might be interested in this, especially at George Mason University on Wednesday, October 24th, regarding guns, domestic violence, and lethal combination. But this group has been meeting all summer as well. So there's also, you can see there's the whole list of recommendations is in here. I'll be here afterwards, and if anybody wants to come and talk to me and get the address, I'll stick around. Also, you can, and this is important, this is something you all can do. You can provide public comment on these recommendations. I think that's really important, especially for you guys in high school and in college as well. You can provide some public recommendations, comment on these things. And of course, you got to vote for people like Patrick Cook, because he will fight the gun violence, the corporate gun lobby, fight the gun violence prevention. And so that is it. Thank you very much.
Okay, our next speaker will be Captain Wayne Vincent of the Arlington County Police Department. He's a 22-year veteran of ACPD. Captain Vincent has served in a variety of positions, including tank patrol, tactical unit, homicide, robbery unit, organized crime, and special operations. Captain Vincent.
Listen, I just want to start off by saying that I have the best job in the police department, believe it or not. My current position allows me to not only supervise our community outreach team, but our school resource officers. There's not a better job in the police department there really is, because it really gives me the opportunity to come out and meet Arlingtonians from all over the county. So thank you for that. I guess I can thank my chief for that, but thank you for having me. Let me answer the question first. Are our schools safe? I can actually come from behind here if you don't mind. But are our schools safe? I think the easy answer is yes. It is. Our schools are safe. Could they be safer? Absolutely. And I think myself and Mr. Pope from APS are going to talk a little bit about that. Maybe not in as much detail as you would like, but I'm sure we can probably give you some ideas or let you know where we're going forward, making our schools safe. But as far as the history of Arlington County, Deputy Chief Murray just reminded me, school resource officers. We've had school resource officers in Arlington Public Schools for at least 40 years. I can tell you that I've had the opportunity in my career to travel the country, to go to the Department of Justice, to go assess other police departments. Today in this country, we still have jurisdictions that don't have SROs in their schools. Now, I'm talking even high school, not even elementary and middle schools, even high schools. So for our community, we are blessed, literally blessed, that we have school resource officers in our schools. Currently in Arlington County, we have 13 school resource officers and 3 supervisors. We have 1 SRO in every comprehensive high school, 1 in every middle school, and we have 3, if you look at it, 5 SROs that share our remainder of elementary schools. We also liaison with most of our private schools, but not all, because some of them just we're still working on that. But we do liaison on most of our private schools. Our entire department, not just our SROs, are well trained. Folks, the truth of the matter is, when I first came to policing over 22 years ago, this topic of school safety and security was not on the police radar. It wasn't. 1999 changed that. It changed policing forever. And we continue to evolve from that. 1999, when the Columbine, tragic events in the Columbine, it changed us forever. And we continue to this day to work on how to make our schools safe. I'll say this to you if you guys didn't know this. Our schools are safe because you have more of a chance to be involved in an active violent incident in any business in Arlington more so than you do in our schools. That is a fact, that is a stat, and it's a good one. Okay, but as a system, or I should say as a police department, we continue to look at best practices. We continue to train to prepare for if that day should ever come, that we can respond and effectively neutralize any threats to our students and to our staff inside of APS. Now with that, I know you have a lot of questions. It's already 8:20. I know I only had 8 minutes. I'm going to give the rest of my time to Mr. Pope. And I promise you, although we're only here till 9 o'clock, I will stay for as long as it takes if any of you want to talk to me afterwards or do it this evening. Okay? Thank you.
Our next speaker will be Zachary Pope. He is the Arlington Public Schools Emergency Management Professional. Our first one. Ladies and gentlemen, Zachary Pope.
I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. One of the things that I really want to talk about is the importance of having an open and honest discussion about hard topics. And the topic of school safety is a hard topic to talk about. There are emotions involved in it, there are concerns for children, grandchildren, you as an employee or students, and it's important for us to have those open and hard conversations in order to address things collaboratively. Oh, sorry. Can everybody, microphones. So, I'm a certified emergency manager with the International Association of Emergency Management, and I'm the first emergency manager for Arlington Public Schools. What does that mean? So, my job is to look at things from a comprehensive systems approach around school safety. And as the first one dedicated, I'm impressed by the work that we've done here in Arlington County by the individual schools and by the system and its partners today. And school safety has never been a more important topic than us to have tonight, because as Simone mentioned, there have been instances of violence involving individual students attending public schools even this week. However, the answer to preventing incidents in our schools and improving school safety is never a one-shot answer, and there's no silver bullet. We have to accept that we can truly never eliminate a hazard, like a hurricane, or the issues of mental illness. And too often we get fixated on the notion of violence in our schools and around the country because of the impact that they have on individual communities. A recent study published by the Federal Bureau of Investigation in conjunction with the Department of Justice on active shooter incidents as a whole, which we can define as an individual actively engaged in the killing or attempting to kill people in a confined or populated area, backs up Wayne's statement in saying that you're more likely to be involved in an incident in a place of commerce or healthcare or an open space than that of an educational facility. From 2014 to 2015, there are 6 incidents of active shooter situations that are described in this particular report. 3 of those are attributed to elementary to secondary education facilities, while the other 3 are attributed to higher education. And while we could spend all night talking about installing more cameras, installing bulletproof glass on windows, and the what ifs and what ifs down the road. And what I'd like for you to take away from the conversation is that the focus of our efforts, including the latest studies out on violence prevention, are less focused on buying the new toy and putting bulletproof glass into our schools. And it's more about how we support one another and interact with one another. And what I'm talking about is an approach to violence prevention that's community-based, right? A few statistics I'd like to share with you tonight from this study. So they cataloged 160 incidents that were in this study and found that you're 3 times more likely to be involved in an incident of active shooter in those places that Wayne mentioned than that at school. Only 25% of active shooters in the study ever have been diagnosed with a mental illness. Only 25% have ever been diagnosed by the time of the incident with a mental illness. Active shooters were typically experiencing, on average, 3.6 individual separate mental health stressors the year before they committed their act. For active shooters under the age of 18, school peers and teachers were more likely to observe this concerning behavior in communications than that of their family. And on average, each active shooter displayed 4 to 5 concerning behaviors over the time that they were observable to others in their relationship network. Most frequently of those concerning behaviors were specifically their interactions with others and talking about their intent to commit violence. So what I have to say is it's up to us. It's up to teachers, it's up to administrators, it's up to us as community members, it's us as mentors of students to support one another in those times that we need it, and to have a dialogue with one another about behavior that is concerning. To report it without a fear of retaliation, and we have to be comfortable and open and honest when somebody approaches us about our behavior, about what is stressing us in our lives, and how we are showing up to everybody else. Without a community-based approach, no hardening of our facilities, no equipment, no laws are going to prohibit concerning behavior from being present in our community. On the other topics of school safety, much broader than violence prevention, school safety is always and will continue to be a continuous improvement cycle. One in which we'll always be chasing the next best system, piece of equipment, process, plan, consultant, or methodology. The true approach to school safety, though, involves collaboration. Collaboration like the event tonight, the collaboration like Arlington Public Schools has with the police department, and so on. Without a team-based approach and an opportunity to open and honestly review and discuss our concerns and solutions, we silo ourselves into a one-size-fits-all approach. It's my goal as the first emergency management professional to be collaborative, to engage our stakeholders, to discuss the hard topics, and continuously improve the safety of our students, families, employees, and visitors. Because let's face it, folks still come to use our pools. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the night, and as Wayne said he'll be here, I'll be here to answer any of those questions you may have. And remember, safety is everyone's responsibility, and it's a journey that we share together. Thank you.
Now we'll hear the student's perspective. Our first student speaking will be Karina Blvd. She's a senior at HB Woodlawn, lives in Waverly Hills, enjoys history and politics, also painting and drawing, and is on the HB Woodlawn Frisbee Ultimate team. Ladies and gentlemen, Karina Blvd. I guess I pronounced it close enough. Also at HB Woodlawn, also into Ultimate Frisbee, except she lives in Greenwood, interested in biology and plays cello. Ladies?
Good evening, my name is Karina Blvd, and I'm a senior at HB Woodlawn here in Arlington, Virginia. Chloe and I are two of the student leaders of our school's chapter of Students Demand Action. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight in front of all of you. School safety and gun violence are a very real concern for students. Since the Sandy Hook Massacre on December 14, 2012, there's been over 347 school shootings. In 2018 alone, there's been at least 59 incidences of gunfire on school grounds. 3 million American children are exposed to gun violence every single year. Experiencing this type of violence, whether it be in school, at home, or in your neighborhood, is traumatic. Those who have been impacted by shootings are more likely to suffer from substance abuse, post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and anxiety. Personally, I know this. I know what fear feels like. I know how fear impacts my life. In March of 2016, my grandfather was shot and killed through the window of his own home in Fairfax, Virginia, while he was watching TV on his couch. To this day, the case remains unsolved, and my family is still asking the question, why? Why did this happen to my family? After this trauma, I experienced dips in my grades, issues in social environments, and had my sense of security stripped from me. Not only did I not feel safe in my school and my neighborhood, I didn't feel safe in my own home. Students across the nation share very similar fears as I do, and they shouldn't have to. Students should not have to look over their shoulder while walking to and from school and fear that somebody may be following them. They should not have to turn against their own classmates and fear that one of them may be carrying a gun. or spread rumors that their classmates give them school shooter vibes. They should not have to walk into a classroom and immediately search for the safest corner and the nearest exit. However, this is the reality that all American students are facing. We are accustomed to active shooter drills, armed police officers on campus, and locked doors. We are taught exactly what to do during a lockdown drill, beginning in kindergarten. Turn off the lights, close any blinds, hide in the farthest corner away from the door, and turn your phone on silent. And for the younger students, do not cry and remain silent. The possibility of introducing more guns onto school grounds, such as arming the teachers, is not the answer to this problem and is just adding fuel to the fire. More guns will create a more dangerous school environment. Anxiety is something that is expected from high school, but nothing compares to the looming fear that death may just be around the corner. School should be a safe place for learning and not a place where we need to crouch in the corner and fear for our lives. And think about what we might need to text our parents in the event of an emergency. As students, we are looking to our community leaders, elected officials, and law enforcement to ensure our safety on our school grounds. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Chloe Pugel, and I'm a senior at HP Woodland. When I first started in 6th grade at HP, about 3 months before the Sandy Hook tragedy, every door to the outside was unlocked during school hours. If you left the building, you could easily just turn around and walk back in. Fast forward to 4 months, post Sandy Hook, we had our first lockdown drill. My 6th grade science class crouched behind our teacher's long lab bench, fearfully silent. We could hear the police walking down the hallway, rattling every doorknob as they went. They still made us jump when they got to our door, shaking the whole thing as they rattled the knob. They locked the doors during the school day, except the front and back entrance. Signs were posted on the door saying, "You may ask students to sing for dance first, but please let them in." This past Friday, we had our first lockdown drill of the school year, and this afternoon we had our second. Everyone knows now to bring their phone when they hear the announcement. We play telephone, trying to laugh quietly. Lockdown drills are so common, no one thinks it's a big deal anymore. Even the back entrance and front entrance are locked, and you have to ring a bell to get in. At Yorktown, where my brother goes to school, they are not allowed to let in a fellow student, even if they just left. Do these measures make us safer? I'm sure. Random people can't get into the school unless the student lets them in or they go to the front entrance. However, many of the doorways have glass panes in them, so with enough effort, an intruder could probably get in anyway. Many school districts have proposed or installed metal detectors at the front entrance of the school. I did a little research on this last night and found that the biggest downsides to this are the cost and student perceptions at school. The upside, of course, is increased safety, although only if the intruder uses the entrance with the metal detector. Metal detectors, in addition to their upfront cost, need as many as 5 personnel and 1 armed officer with them at all times. Just as they do at the airport and museums, metal detectors surely cause huge lines, an effect that compounds if high schoolers can only go in the front entrance. Possibly the biggest problem with metal detectors, though, is how students would perceive the school. A study found that fear was more present in a school with metal detectors than in a school without. Personally, I agree with this study. Metal detectors would change the atmosphere of our whole lobby and probably the whole morning. Metal detectors in the front entrance would say to me, "School is a dangerous place." Recently, the idea of arming teachers has been circulating as a great way to fortify schools against intruders. And I hope you agree with me that this is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. But for a moment, let us entertain what would happen if teachers were armed. There would be a huge upfront cost, of course, both from buying the guns and from training all the teachers. Then there would be a gun in every classroom. Hopefully, it would be stored, unloaded, and locked to prevent anyone from getting to it. But what happens if an intruder comes in suddenly? There wouldn't be time to unlock and load the gun, and it would be useless. It probably wouldn't happen in Arlington, but some teachers could use the gun as a threat. Accidental shootings would become more common. A gun in every class would simply increase the fear in schools. It's a terrible idea. Metal detectors have some upsides, but many downsides, and the security measures currently in place are good, but nowhere near fail-safe. I think the best way to assure that these tragedies never happen again is to place restrictions on who can get access to guns, better legislation, and better legislators. And so my final request to you is, if you're not currently registered to vote in Virginia, please take out your phone. I'm serious. There's a new app you can use to register to vote on your phone. You start a text message to 384-387, and you text "Hello Vote" to start the process of registering to vote. Please do so if you're not registered. And thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to invite our speakers up to the dais.
I have a question for Mr. David. I was very encouraged to hear you saying that this is not a problem that the solution is less likely to be technological than interpersonal. What do you think restrains people, students, teachers, other neighbors, from speaking about dangerous behaviors? Why do people afterwards always say, yeah, I thought he was a good man?
In my experience, a lot of it has to do with complacency. And folks just kind of say things like, well, yeah, they've done it a couple of times. It's no big deal. We talked about it and just kind of moved on. And they get complacent to the behavior just being present. And instead of having the conversation with the right people at the start of it, and so appropriate interventions can be made at the beginning of when the behavior starts to be displayed, is probably one of the most important things. Is that truly the answer? And folks are always complacent? No. I think there's times that you can see that potentially there's opportunities for improved training, improved collaboration. Communication methodologies may not have been the best, or relationships in terms of that teacher and the student may not have been the best. There really is no one kind of reason why a person chooses to withhold that information.
I agree with that. I can't explain why people do it, but I think one response I think we can have as a community, or specifically APS and our community, is to make it easier for people to report. I think a lot of people don't want to go through the hassle of either the embarrassment or I don't want to be wrong. But I think if you see more and more people, and again, this is part of those best practices nationwide, you're seeing more and more school districts now putting anonymous communications out there where people can communicate directly to the school district and to law enforcement anonymously, so we have direct access and we can see what they're reporting, we can look into it, and more importantly have that intervention and prevention in place.
Paul, I want to ask you, do you actually think that if we could flip Virginia and have a majority of Democrats, that it would make any difference with our gun laws?
Yes. No doubt. There's no doubt about it. Right, as I said, we're playing defense. The not 100, but we probably have 30, 40 bills. Last year we defeated a bill, the governor vetoed it, on that would mandate that churches and places of worship had to have guns, or could have guns. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was ridiculous. If the church, if the church wanted to prohibit guns in their sanctuary, they weren't allowed to. That was the bill, and of course we all voted against it, but it didn't matter because we only had 49. So it went to the governor, and the governor vetoed it. The good news is we have enough to sustain the veto. So we've been doing that, and that's why I say we're playing defense. But yes, we will. There's a number of we have a caucus, gun violence prevention caucus that Senator Evan is co-chairs, and we've invited the Republicans to join us, and none on that caucus. And so there's a number of bills that, and if you remember last year, Senator Evans, it was bill number, I think it was SB4, was one of the first ones introduced, which was the ban of bump stocks. And that didn't, I think it did get through subcommittee in the Senate side, but on the House side, it died an ignominious death in the very first subcommittee it went to. So yes, I do
Matthew Brinty. I'm here tonight because I want to think about measurable ways we can make a difference before the legislature changes. And I need a communications, a sticky way of talking about the measurable change that we might need. Is there a way to say we have to get to 250 to 100 as a ratio of counselors? Are there ways, it just seems too elusive to say mental health is hard to measure. Are there ways that we can, in the short term, try to publicize important steps that we can take to reduce the risk over the next 6 to 9 months?
I have a background in organizational psychology and leadership, and what I'll say is in all the organizations that I've worked in, there are national best practices around all of these topics. There is no one size fits all. Each organization, each school district is different, but what I'll say is the importance of having those conversations and putting that out in the forefront around mental health, around reporting, around training, around recognizing threats is probably the most effective thing that school districts can do, is to make sure that it is at the forefront of the conversation.
From the hearings we've had on this issue, it's clear that schools with lower counselor to student ratios, the students do better, there's better discipline, there's less problems with discipline, and you're really working to keep the students also out of that school to prison pipeline you have a lot of places. So what's the Arlington County ratio?
For counselors,
Yeah,
it is
counselors.
about 250. I don't know the exact
So
number.
see, Arlington already is at best practice, but we've got elementary schools around the Commonwealth 500 to 1.
Why your task force division, I'm sorry, I don't have the right title, did not talk about gun safety issues in the community that would have enhanced school safety. And if you can tell us what the reasons were that gun safety were not discussed, do you think those reasons were sufficient to avoid the topic that has a lot to do with students' fears for their safety?
All over the Commonwealth, and on the other side of the aisle, it is it's a critical thing to them, and they don't give really an inch on that issue. And I think we definitely, I would have preferred, yes, I would have preferred that it was included, and that we spent more time on gun violence, and commonsensical gun safety laws. Certainly we should, and you can't divorce the two issues, can you? I mean, you can't have, really can't have school safety until you know that you don't have bad actors with guns out there. And we can't do one without the other. We need to do both. But as I said in my presentation, the speaker was probably wise in at least tackling the school safety side of it in a bipartisan way, so that we could get some things done in a bipartisan way. And I think you're going to see that. I mentioned a number of the different things. So there's around 60 recommendations, and some of them are duplicative, but most of them are very good, outside of a couple that I don't like. But I think at least we're going to get something accomplished on that front. The gun issue is a bigger issue, and that we need to tackle that. Like I said, we're gonna make that happen once we take back the House and the Senate, and we have the governor for another 2 years. So let's make it happen this next year.
I have a question for Delegate Kriesbeck, and then I have one for the Arlington Schools person. My name is Blvd. I'm wondering how much money is in the current Virginia budget for school safety?
It's not enough. That's number one. But and one of the things that the chairman of appropriations, Chris Jones, on the committee in the committee meeting yesterday, asked the very question: how much would all this cost? He wanted to know. There's probably 60 recommendations. How much are each one going to cost? So when we meet back in November, we're going to meet at James Madison University. I just found out yesterday, and at that point, we will have a list of each one of the recommendations and the price tag. And so that would be in addition to what we already spend. Like I did mention, there's that SRO grant program, 1.3 million. In this year's budget is 2.6, but then it reverts back next year, the second part of the biennium is 1.3. But there's other monies. There's some grant money that's available already for school hardening and things like that. But it's not a lot of money. I'm sure Arlington County is getting very little regarding this issue, and you probably see much more money in from Arlington, which is similar to what's happening in Fairfax sorry. But the comments are just easing more.
So you will be, your commission or whatever task
Yes.
force will be asking for more money in the budget for the coming year?
I think so, and I think that's the biggest positive out of this task force is that you know, it's the majority of the task force are Republicans, and they're recognizing that money needs to be spent. So I hope they and I do expect them to support a lot of these initiatives that cost money. So where that money comes from, I don't know. Hopefully we can make it happen, and but I think it's money well spent. If you can't take care of the safety of these kids and our young people, then what are we doing? You know, I think that's got to come first.
I don't know the budget for school safety offhand. As Mr. Delegate Krizek said, it's not enough. We have been rolling out a number of things over time in all of our schools, a variety of safety measures. We do have, as Mr. Krizek pointed out, school resource officers at all of our secondary schools, middle and high school, and then they're shared across all of our middle schools. And we have been, over time, rolling out a number of safety initiatives across all of our schools. Mr. Chadwick, do you want to share a little bit about what we're doing?
We don't have a specific budget line item where everything is gathered together, because as everybody's been saying this evening, it's a multi-pronged approach that we take. So there's money for counselors, there's money for security, cameras, and all of those things. So they're spread out in a whole lot of different areas, and I would actually resist trying to add them all up and say that's all safety, because many of those things also have to help us in other ways.
With 2 schools opening up in FY19 next September, well, you're right, 5 new schools, I should say, opening up next September. The police department is looking at ways to increase, so we are going to invest in the kind of increase our school resource officers. We have to, because again, with the opening of these new schools. So I just want to put that out there. That's something we're looking at from our department.
You got Joe here, a kid who's acting really weird in school, and people say, well, Joe's got to get counseling. And Joe says, I'm not interested in counseling, but he's still acting really weird, pushing all the buttons that one would indicate that he's a serious problem. How do you deal with it?
It depends on what the conversation looks like with Joe. Was that the student's name? Looks like what the conversation with Joe looks like. We would do what we call an initial threat assessment to determine whether or not there's imminent harm to self or others. And then the process of threat assessment is about individualization of our interventions. So counseling may not be what Joe needs. It may be that we need to look to more individualized education programs and plans, so an IEP. It may be that he is in the wrong school and he's going to a neighborhood school and really could be at a different alternative placement. It could be that there's some stuff going on at home and Joe just needs an avenue or opportunity to talk about it that has a stigmatization around counseling, and so we found a mentor for him. There's a lot of different avenues in which to do that, but the more folks talk about Joe's concerning behavior and report that and communicate that they are concerned about his behavior, the more information we have to better address and prevent. The process is to de-escalate the behavior and to curb the behavior before it continues on the violence continuum.
So I have a question for Arlington students, Chloe and Karina. You woke up tomorrow and you were in charge of the world. You were in charge of the rule of the world. What's one thing you would change or correct? What's that one thing for school safety?
There are a lot of answers I could give for that, but in relation to school safety, I guess, I would want to put in place universal background checks or completely ban like assault weapons, military grade weapons for civilians. Big measures that would not happen in the current political environment.
Just to piggyback off of what Chloe said, I agree with the ban on assault weapons for civilian usage and universal background checks. I also think that there should be more laws in place for maybe domestic abusers or former felons or convicted criminals to access guns. Yeah, red flag law. There should be red flag laws if there's any warning signs that this person might not be fit to own a weapon. They should not be able to get their hands on a weapon. So if I had to change something, that's multiple things, but that is what I choose.
Is there any appropriate research that's going on behind the scenes to help this committee make their decisions, you know, about how incidents get started, where people get the guns, even if you're not talking about guns, but any hardcore research that you all are going to be using to make some of the decisions about spending the money on school safety.
We're down in session in January, February, and March, and I always tell people it's like it's Congress on steroids, because we're doing so much so quickly. We have really it's like 2,000 or 3,000 bills that we're debating and voting upon. So there's very little time to do anything like research at that point in time. So having this special select task force or whatever, I've lost track of what it's called now, but we've had many, it's probably this high in paper that I've got. It was very difficult for me to kind of try to put it all down into a few slides for tonight, but there's lots of research. There's the JLARC studies that we've been getting, and that's what's that stand for, Patrick? Joint Legislative Review and Audit Committee, right? And they're experts down in Richmond that do studies of anything that the speaker asks for. Sometimes we ask it and it doesn't happen, but it's certainly, they work very hard to provide us with a lot of data. The appropriations staff provided a lot of information, but also the PTA, they testified and they had a lot of information. So the Sheriff's Association, a number of different police departments from around the Commonwealth, and the state police. So there was a number, even the Firefighters Association, they spoke as well. I can't remember exactly what it's called. But it was interesting, actually. That's an interesting thing, because if you think about it, 100 years ago, the big issue we would be all talking about right now is all of the fatalities in the schools due to fires. And that was a big problem in the United States. There was an awful fire, I think it's somewhere in the Midwest, where 200 students were killed, died in a fire. And so that started the whole advent of the fire drill and better, schools that had, were made better, and there were best practices on how to deal with fire. So that's why we have today. It's very, very rare, thank God, that we have any fires and certainly fatalities around fires in schools. And so hopefully we can get to that same place with the gun issues on campuses too.
In the 2017 session, the General Assembly passed a law that would permit retired law enforcement to be in schools, to be essentially the SROs, mainly because we heard a lot of concerns from a lot of school districts that SROs are very expensive and bringing people in as retirees, for instance, cheaper. Is that something that Arlington would ever consider? I should say Prince William just announced that they're doing that themselves. I know people are concerned about guns in schools, but they're okay with SROs. Would Arlington County, or what is your feeling about retired law enforcement serving that capacity? Because as Barbara Kennedy mentioned, that they're not, SROs not in every school, but that might be a way to get SROs or that law enforcement in every school.
Yeah, so with labor the law, I know Prince William's done it. I believe Loudoun County is also looking into doing it already. We've actually had some retired police officers from Arlington. They've retired and gone on to become security officers in several jurisdictions, like Prince William County. Your question is really for APS. Obviously, the police officer, I don't mean to put it on my friend Zachary, but honestly, it's a question for APS, because it'd be up to them. Obviously, we only enforce the law, but if APS chose to go that route, then obviously they could. So
it is something that I'm looking into. There's lots of options around lots of different things. That is one particular option, and kind of what folks would see as closing the gap around school safety. It's something that would need careful consideration and conversation, obviously, with the school board and with the police department as to what that would look like. But it is an option that we would explore and look at what that would look like.
Please join me in another round of applause for our speaker.